someone being physically tortured. I thought of Naomi again. Was she in North Carolina? Or in California somehow? Was the same thing happening to her? I chased the disturbing image out of my head, one problem at a time. It took another half-hour for Dr. Ruoko to treat Kate McTiernan. She put her on an IV dose of Librium. Then she reconnected the heart monitor Kate was on because of her injuries. When she had finished, the intern drifted off into an even deeper sleep. She wasn't going to tell us any of her secrets tonight. "I like your work," I whispered to Dr. Ruoko. "You did good." Maria Ruoko motioned for me to step outside with her. The hospital corridor was in semi-darkness. It was very quiet, and as eerie as hospitals can be at night. I had the recurring thought that Casanova could be a doctor at University Hospital. He might even be inside the hospital now, even at this late hour. "We've done everything we can do for her right now, Alex. Let the Librium do its job. I count 3 FBI agents plus 2 of Durham's finest guarding young Dr. McTiernan from the bogeyman for tonight. Why don't you go back to your hotel? Get some sleep yourself. How about a little Valium for you, kind sir?" I told Maria Ruoko that I preferred to sleep at the hospital. I don't think Casanova will come after her here, but there's no way to tell. He just might. Especially if Casanova was a local physician, I was thinking, but I didn't mention that to Maria. Besides, I feel a connection to Kate in there. I have from the first time I saw her. Maybe she knew Naomi. Dr. Maria Ruoko stared up at me. I had at least a foot in height on her. She spoke with a total deadpan look on her face. "You appear sane. You sound sane at times. But you're certifiable," she said and smiled. Her bright blue eyes twinkled playfully. "Plus, I'm armed and dangerous," I said. "Good night, Dr. Cross," Maria Ruoko said, and she blew me a feathery kiss. "Good night, Dr. Ruoko, and thank you." I sailed a kiss back at her as she walked down the corridor. I slept restlessly on 2 uncomfortable club chairs pulled together inside Kate McTiernan's room. I kept my revolver cradled in my lap. Pleasant dreams, I'm sure. Chapter 50. "Who are you? Who the hell are you, mister?" A loud, high-pitched voice woke me up. It was close by, almost in my face. I remembered immediately that I was at the University of North Carolina Hospital. I remembered exactly where I was in the hospital. I was with Kate McTiernan, our prize witness. "I'm a policeman," I said in a soft and hopefully reassuring voice to the traumatized intern. "My name is Alex Cross. You're in North Carolina University Hospital. Everything is okay now." At first, Kate McTiernan looked as if she might cry. Then she seemed to take hold of herself. Watching her grab control like that helped me understand how she had survived both Casanova and the river. This was a very strong-willed woman I had been watching over. "I'm in the hospital?" Her words were slightly slurred, but at least she was coherent. "Yes, that's right," I said, holding up one hand, palm facing out. "You're safe now. Let me run and get a doctor. Please, I'll be right back." The slight slurring continued, but Dr. McTiernan was focused, scarily so. "Hold on a minute. I am a doctor. Let me get my bearings before we invite company in to visit. Just let me collect my thoughts. You're a policeman?" I nodded. I wanted to make this as easy for her as I possibly could. I wanted to hug her, hold her hand, do something supportive and yet not threatening, after what she'd been through the past few days. I also wanted to ask her about 100 important questions. Kate McTiernan looked away from me. "I think he drugged me. Or maybe all that was a dream?" "No, it wasn't a dream. He used a powerful drug called Marinol." I told her what we knew so far. I was being so careful not to push Kate the wrong way. "I must have been really tripping." She tried to whistle and made a funny sound. I could see where she was missing a tooth. Her mouth was probably dry, her lips were swollen, especially the upper lip. Odd as it seemed, I found myself smiling. "You were probably on the planet Weirdness for a while. It's nice to have you back." "It's really nice to be back," she said in a whisper. Tears welled up in her eyes.
"Sorry,"
she said.
"I tried so hard not to cry in that horrible place. I didn't want him to see any weakness he could exploit. I want to cry now. I think I will."
"Oh, please, you just cry your eyes out," I whispered too. I could barely talk or keep back tears myself. My chest felt tight. I went over to the hospital bed and I lightly held Kate's hand as she wept.
"You don't sound like you're from the South,"
Kate McTiernan finally spoke again. She was grabbing control of herself. It amazed me she could do that. "I'm from Washington, D.C., actually. My niece disappeared from Duke Law School 10 days ago. That's why I'm down here in North Carolina. I'm a detective." She seemed to see me for the first time. She also appeared to be remembering something important.
"There were other women at the house where I was kept prisoner. We weren't supposed to talk. All communication was strictly forbidden by Casanova, but I broke the rules. I talked to a woman named Naomi."
I stopped her, cut her off there. "My niece's name is Naomi Cross," I said. "She's alive? She's all right?" My heart felt as if it were going to implode. "Tell me what you remember, Kate. Please." Kate McTiernan grew more intense.
"I talked to Naomi. I don't remember her last name. I also talked to Kristen. The drugs. Oh, God, was it your niece? Everything is so hazy and dark right now. I'm sorry."
Kate's voice trailed off as if someone had let the air out of her. I gently squeezed her hand. No. You just gave me more hope than I've had since I came down here." Kate McTiernan's eyes were fixed and solemn, staring into mine. She seemed to be looking back at something horrifying that she wanted to forget.
"I don't remember a lot of it right now. I think Marinol has that side effect. I remember that he was going to give me another injection. I kicked him, hurt him enough to get away. At least, I think that's what happened. There were thick woods, Carolina pines, hanging moss everywhere. I remember, I swear to God, the house, wherever we were being kept, it disappeared. The house where we were being held captive just disappeared on me."
Kate McTiernan slowly shook her head of long brown hair back and forth. Her eyes were wide with astonishment. She seemed amazed at her own story.
"That's what I remember. How could that be? How could a house disappear?"
I could tell that she was reliving her very recent, terrifying past. I was right there with her. I was the first one to hear the story of her escape, the only one so far to hear our witness speak. Chapter 51. Casanova was still disturbed and highly agitated about the loss of Dr. Kate McTiernan. He was restless and had been wide awake for hours. He rolled over and over in bed. This was no good. This was dangerous. He had made his first mistake. Then someone whispered in the darkness,
"Are you all right? Are you okay?"
The woman's voice startled him at first. He had been Casanova. Now he seamlessly switched over to his other persona, the good husband. He reached out and gently rubbed his wife's bare shoulder. "I'm okay. No problem. Just a little trouble sleeping tonight."
"I noticed. How could I not? The human Mexican jumping bean strikes again."
There was a smile in her sleepy voice. She was a good person, and she loved him. "Sorry," Casanova whispered, and kissed his wife's shoulder. He stroked her hair as he thought about Kate McTiernan. Kate had much longer brown hair. He kept stroking his wife's hair, but he drifted back into his own tortured thoughts again. He really didn't have anyone to talk to, did he? Not anymore. Not around here in North Carolina, certainly. Not even in the highfalutin Research Triangle belt. He finally climbed out of bed and trudged downstairs. He shuffled into his den and quietly shut and locked the door. He looked at his wristwatch. It was 3 a.m. That would make it 12 out in Los Angeles. He made the call. Actually, Casanova did have someone to talk to. one person in the world. "It's me," he said, when he heard the familiar voice on the line. "I'm feeling a little crazy tonight. I thought of you, of course." "Are you implying that I lead a wanton and half-mad life?" the gentleman caller asked with a chuckle. That goes without saying. Casanova was feeling better already. There was someone he could talk to and share secrets with. "I took another one yesterday. Let me tell you about Anna Miller. She's exquisite, my friend." Chapter 52. Casanova had struck again. Another student, a bright, beautiful woman named Anna Miller, had been abducted from a garden apartment she shared with her lawyer boyfriend near the State University of North Carolina in Raleigh. The boyfriend had been murdered in their bed, which was a new twist for Casanova. He left no note and no other clues at the crime scene. After a mistake, he was showing us he was letter-perfect again. I spent several hours with Kate McTiernan at the University of North Carolina Hospital. We got along well. I felt that we were becoming friends. She wanted to help me with the psychological profile on Casanova. She was telling me everything that she knew about Casanova and his women captives. As far as she could tell, there had been 6 women held as hostages, including herself. It was possible that there were more than 6. Casanova was extremely well organized, according to Kate. He was capable of planning weeks and weeks ahead, of studying his prey in amazing detail. He seemed to have built the House of Horrors by himself. He had installed plumbing, a special sound system, and air conditioning, apparently for the comfort of his women captives. Kate had only seen the house in a drugged state, though, and she couldn't describe it very well. Casanova could be a control freak who was violently jealous and extremely possessive. He was sexually active and capable of several erections in a night. He was obsessed with sex and the male sexual urge. He could be thoughtful in his way. He could also be romantic, his own word. He loved to cuddle and kiss and talk to the women for hours. He said that he loved them. In midweek, the FBI and the Durham police finally agreed on a secure place in the hospital for Kate McTiernan to meet with the press for the first time. The news conference was held in a wide entrance corridor on her floor. The all-white hallway was jam-packed to the glowing red exit signs with reporters clutching their notepads and TV people with minicams hoisted on their shoulders. Policemen with automatic weapons were also present, just in case. Homicide detectives Nick Ruskin and Davy Sykes stayed close to Kate during the course of the TV taping. Kate McTiernan was well on her way to becoming a national figure. Now the general public would get to actually meet the woman who had escaped from the House of Horrors. I felt sure that Casanova would be watching, too. I hoped he wasn't right there in the hospital with us. A male nurse, who was clearly a bodybuilder, pushed Kate into the noisy, crowded hallway. The hospital wanted her in a wheelchair. She had on baggy UNC sweatpants and a simple white cotton t-shirt. Her long brown hair was full and shiny. The bruising and swelling around her face was down a lot. "I almost look like my old self," she had told me. "But I don't feel like my old self, Alex. Not inside." When the nurse wheeled the bulky chair almost up to a stand of microphones, Kate surprised everyone. She slowly stood up and walked the rest of the way. "Hello. I'm Kate McTiernan, obviously," she said to the assembled reporters who now pushed in even closer to the prime witness. "I have a very brief statement to make, then I'll get out of everybody's hair." Her voice was strong and vibrant. She was very much in control of herself, or so it seemed to all of us watching and listening. Her light touch and subtle humor drew smiles and laughter from the crowd. One or two of the reporters tried to ask questions, but the noise level had risen, and it was hard to hear them. Cameras flashed and buzzed up and down the packed hospital corridor. Kate stopped speaking, and it became relatively quiet again. At first, everyone thought the press conference was too much for her to handle. A nearby doctor stepped forward, but she waved him away. "I'm fine. I'm really okay, thanks. If I'm woozy or anything, I'll sit right down in the chair like a model patient. I promise you I will. No false bravado from me." She was definitely in control of this moment. She was older than most medical students or interns, and in fact, she looked like a doctor. She peered around the room. She was curious, it seemed, maybe a little amazed. Finally, she apologized for the momentary lapse. "I was just gathering my thoughts.